So now to an incredible story of two Kenyan men who discovered that they were the sons of the same Italian missionary priest. An Associated Press report put the spotlight on their quest to prove their identities and the little support they received from the Catholic Church. It's a story that happens way more frequently than you might think. Nicole Winfield is the co-author of the article on these two men. She joins me now from Skype to discuss their story and the implications behind it. So this is really fascinating. You have these two men, and when you look at the picture of them, they really do look like brothers. They did not grow up together, but they discovered that their father is the same Italian priest. As sort of succinctly as you can, give us their story.
Well, I was approached with one of the men's story a few months ago, and I was interested in it because it was more than a mere case of a priest fathering a child, which, as we know, especially in Africa, does happen. In his case, his mother, though, was very young. She was only 16 when she conceived, so all of a sudden it was more than just a case of a priest having a child. It was a priest having sex with a minor and then having a child after that. After that story was published, another man came forward to say he too was another son of the same priest, and that's how we put them together.
I thought it was very interesting that, at least in the case of one of the men, he had a lot of documentation. He had letters going back and forth between, his mother and the priest, asking for financial support. He had letters from the priest, talking about how difficult the decision was, that he was receiving pressure from his brethren to choose the church over himself. It occurred to me, without all that documentation, I don't know how you'd be able to prove that a priest was your father.
The second man's case was certainly much stronger. He had a birth certificate listing the priest, his name as the father. So his case was much better documented. And we had also correspondence between the mother and the priest's religious order. So between the two of them, we had anecdotal testimony from the first man, and actual documented evidence from the second man, and then we were able to make the connection.
So talk about some of the challenges that these men faced, having a priest for a father who chose to return to the church and essentially not to remain in Kenya, not to be a father to them.
Well, they grew up as children of single mothers, and all that implies in terms of their financial insecurity. In both of their cases, their nationality was an issue. The second man, Stephen Larkin, was unable to get Kenyan citizenship because he had a Ugandan mother and apparently an Italian father, yet he had spent his whole life in Kenya. And maybe in the beginning, when he was young, that wasn't such a problem. But in more recent years, when citizenship papers, identity papers, especially with Kenya now dealing with some terrorist acts, he had argued in his correspondence to the order that he really needed to establish Kenyan citizenship for his own ability to work, for his children, and for his own financial security.
And what role did the church play here?
Well, we have some correspondence between the mother and the religious order. This is the Consulate of Missionaries order, which is very active throughout Kenya and throughout Africa, where she is asking them for financial help. She has a fairly well-documented case that one of their priests is indeed the father of her child, and they essentially, they say, we know that some money has been left for you, but they essentially don't help out at all.
Yeah, and in the case of one man, there was money left in a bank account for him, but his mother couldn't access the bank account because we're talking about sort of unstable government, we're talking about a war, and she just could never get to the money. What has been the practice of the Catholic Church when dealing with these sort of situations? Because it certainly appears in this case that the priest here, at least he says, that he felt pressured to return to the church.
Well, again, these are letters that he has written to this woman. So he might have been sugarcoating certain things. We don't really know what was going on. But we know that in those years, certainly these are the 1980s, the Catholic Church didn't want to lose its priests. Vocations are precious things to the church. However, the order has assured me that if this priest made a formal request to renounce his vows and return to life as a layman, they would have let him go because he had a compelling reason to do so. He had fathered a child. And the official policy was that if you have fathered a child, you should be a father to that child. Now, if the priest only told the mother that he wanted to leave but didn't actually make the request official, then who knows what really went on. But the fact is he never left, and the mother was left pretty much to fend for herself.
Has anything changed about the way the Catholic Church handles these sort of situations, whether it's in their actual policy or at least the way the policy is carried out?
Well, we know there are guidelines now. They've never been published, so we don't know really what they say. But the general sense is that they take each case as a case-by-case basis. So if, for example, a child is born into an already existing family, and if there's an agreement that this existing family, a mother and father, are willing to care for this child, then maybe the priest can continue on in his priesthood. But at least the official policy is that the priest should be a father to this child.
Nicole Winfield, thank you so much. Really fascinating story.
Thank you.